Do you know if you should be using a string launcher or a ripcord launcher? Me either. So let's try them both and figure out the pros and cons of each. I have to admit, I absolutely have not spent enough time using a string launcher. After a few launches with it, I was afraid I was going to break it if I pulled too hard. But now's the time to get comfortable using one to see what the differences really are. The first aspect I want to test is whether I can get a consistently longer spin with one launcher over another. So I'm going to take the exact same Beyblade setup and launch both in separate stadiums multiple times and log the results. Not just one setup, but 3 different setups. One with a ball tip, one with a needle tip, and one with a flat tip, since each could interact a bit differently. While there were some differences in spin length, in general it seemed like the percentage of time difference was minimal. I wouldn't say negligible, but minimal enough that I wouldn't feel like I was at a major disadvantage with one over the other in terms of spin time. Something I did immediately notice though is how much less movement there tends to be on a launch from a string launcher. It was much easier to get a bay to just sit and spin quickly, where the ripcord launcher basically always would fling the bay out to the rail or circle around the stadium. This got me thinking, is that an inherent benefit of the string launcher, or am I doing something with my ripcord launch that prevents me from having the same level of control? So I tried some variations and found that the swinging out effect from the ripcord was likely due to me pushing the launcher forward as I pulled the ripcord out, so if I instead pulled backwards on the launcher, I could mitigate some of that. Not necessarily the easiest thing to do in a match where you have to make sure to not hit the opposing player's launcher, but still something. Though even with that mitigation, I still couldn't get it to sit as nicely as with the string launcher. On the other side, however, I found that if I wanted to push my bay out to the rail off the launch, I had a harder time achieving that with the string launcher. Even when physically swinging the launcher, it was less effective than a ripcord launcher in this area. I also felt like I wasn't able to launch as hard with the string launcher, and I think part of that may still be in part to being concerned about breaking the launcher itself. I broke it. I was filming B-roll to wrap the video up, and after one of the pulls, it just didn't retract. Thankfully, there is a relatively straightforward fix for this, which I will link down below for anyone that happens to encounter a similar issue. I'm glad this happened before I finished the video so I could experience it, but because it is fixable, I don't think it significantly alters my final thoughts on this. I am glad I bought another one though, just in case, because well, it's gonna come in handy until I fix this one. But let's send you back to wherever we were in the video. But this is somewhere I could definitely use some knowledge from those that played previous generations where string launchers were seemingly the go-to option. What I can say after these initial tests is I think I need to make some more space in my transport case to bring both a string launcher and a ripcord launcher, because I think if I'm using a defense or stamina setup and want to have great control to put the bay where I want it, then the string launcher is probably my go-to. But if I want that aggressive launch for anything, then the ripcord feels, at least for me so far, like the better option. Now, I'm not saying this is clearly the correct answer to come to, but just what I've found so far. As you know, I'm always looking to hear from everyone on aspects I haven't thought about or might have missed or gotten wrong. Maybe there's a launch technique I'm missing that makes one obviously more appealing than the other. But I'm gonna keep experimenting, taking what information is shared and seeing where it takes me, and likely will update on this in the future. As always, it's fun learning about all of these aspects of the hobby and game, so I'm gonna get back to it and talk with all of you soon.